Round 1 of the Six Nations is done, and it produced a bunch of stats, and I'm going to have a look at some of them today. First of all, we're going to look at some kind of general team stats that might tell us, what they're doing right, what areas they might need to improve on, and then do a bit more specific team stats and drill down into some player stats as well. So hope you guys enjoy. First off, start with possession. So England leading the way with 57% from their game against Scotland. Italy close behind at 56. Ireland 52. Then Wales on 48. France 44. And Scotland on 43. So both France and Scotland won their games while having less possession than their opposition. Into territory then, England had a massive 71% territory. France 58, Ireland 51, Wales 49, Italy 42, and Scotland a meagre 29%. So Scotland managed to win their game with less than a third of territory and also less possession than England. So that's a hell of a win for them, really, when you look at those stats. England, on the flip side then, dominating territory, lion's share of possession, and they still couldn't turn that into a victory. And it shows you that, Borthwick has still got a lot of work to do with them. Italy, they came so close to beating France, and they did have lots of possession. Although a lot of that possession you can see from the territory was actually, in their own half, and that was part, I think, of the problem for them. On to then rucks. So England won the most rucks. Italy and Ireland, they're joint second. Wales a little bit down with 98, and then Scotland and France at the bottom. But the ruck percentage then, Scotland lead the way there in that one. So although they didn't have as many rucks as a lot of the other teams, they still, when they did have them, they were winning them. And then right down the bottom, then you have France on 92.9%. So you can see it's fine margins between the top and the bottom there. And if you look at the teams that won as well, like Scotland won there at the top, and France won as well, and they're at the bottom of that one. So maybe didn't have that much of an impact when they're all in the 90s there. On to mauls then. So Ireland, the team that went to the maul the most. Scotland only went to their maul once. Wales, kind of the most wasteful with their mauls, only 60% success on that one. And Italy, the other team to have one unsuccessful maul as well. Then the scrum. So in terms of scrums won, Ireland topped the charts with France in the bottom. But then when we look at the percentage, then it flips around. France and England 100% of scrums, even though it's only from 2. Ireland at the bottom there with 66.7, and Scotland just above them with 71. So that's an area, I think, for both of them to improve on. Especially Ireland going in against France coming up this weekend. They're going to have to be better at the scrum there, I feel. Onto the line-out then. So Italy win the most line-outs. And then you have France right there at the bottom with 7. And into percentages then. So Ireland and Scotland both 100% on their line-outs. So they're going to be very pleased with that. At the bottom, then you have France and Wales, both in the 70s there, so not as good as they would feel. And I felt as well that Italy probably could have put the ball off the park more and gone and attacked that French line out. I think it was there for them to potentially to exploit a bit more. It's going to be, interesting, the set piece, I think, in Dublin, because you've got, as I said, Ireland kind of struggle a little bit in the scrums, France struggling a little bit in the line-out. Who's going to get, their set piece right there. I think is going to play a major role in who's going to come out in what's probably going to be a tight game there. On to then clean breaks. So Wales, Ireland, and Scotland leading the way. England only 2 clean breaks for them. And then on to the defenders beaten. We got France there sitting at the top. And then Italy and Wales down the bottom with about half as many defenders beaten from them. In terms of player stats, I couldn't find any stats for clean breaks or defenders beating, but I did find broken tackles. So Duhan van der Merwe leads the way there with 11, almost half of his team's defenders beaten, I guess, in that, with the amount of tackles that he broke. And, given that wonder try that he got, it's not very surprising that he leads the way. We got Liam Williams from Wales, and then Fiku, Fischetti, and Sheehan. They're all on 6, and Dumortier, a decent debut for him for France, popping up there with 5 as well. On to offloads then. So France lead the way there, and so France and Wales at the top, and we have Italy and Scotland at the bottom, which is kind of weird. I know France liked an offload anyway, but it is kind of weird in that it felt like Italy definitely were being very risky, but they only threw 4 offloads in the whole game, so it was more kind of passing in dangerous areas rather than actually trying to offload. So just kind of interesting to see that, because just your memory, I'd say, on that one maybe played tricks on you, thinking that they were trying offloads and stuff in their own 22 all the time, but by the stats, probably not. In terms of players then, you have Mac Hansen and Jack van Poortvliet leading the way on 3. Then, a group of players there bigger: Olivon, Bai, Genge, and Williams all on 2 as well. In terms of turnovers conceded, Wales top that one. And then England and Ireland with a few turnovers conceded. The England one, kind of speaks to the fact that they were dominating possession and territory as well. So they had the ball, and they weren't really coughing it up very much, but they also weren't doing as much as they probably could with it when they had it. Ireland, that very dominant first half. They had that, patch in the second half where Wales were on top, but then came back home strong as well for them. In terms of players then, turnovers conceded, we got Finn Russell and Pinot at the top, maybe not surprising, 2 players who like to try things, and if you do that, it's not going to come off every time. So, and you got to kind of give them license to do that, I think. Then we got Olivon, Bruno, North, Don Brandt, and Van Poortvliet all on 3 there as well. Next then is, I think, an interesting one, because kicks from hands, Scotland actually leading the way in 42, and then England 37. So it felt in that game that England were the one kicking the most, but obviously Scotland kicked a little bit more than them. Now a lot of those would be returning England kicks, but still, Scotland would have elected to kick 5 times more than England. So it wasn't just England initiating the kind of kicking duels there. Then Wales and France kicking the least there on 25, and kind of makes sense, the keeping the ball and hand a lot. I noticed as well with France, that normally they would kick more, especially off Dupont at 9. But I think part of it was probably the fact that Italy were holding on to the ball a lot in their own half, which meant that they're not kicking the ball downfield for France to kick return. So maybe that's part of it. Just kind of maybe an aberration for that game. We'll have to see really against Ireland whether they do kick more there. In terms of meters made from kicks, then there's a lot of Scots on the list. But Finn Russell leading the way, 536. Then Stuart Hogg, Freddie Stewart for England. Dupont is there with 265. So maybe not kicking as much as a team, but definitely Dupont still making meters from his kicks as well. You've got Conor Murray and Ben White rounding off then the top six there. In terms of meters run, England, lead the way by a big margin there. But, it'd be interesting to see how many of those meters were just kind of returning kicks rather than actually attacking, really, just running the ball back. Down the bottom, then we have Italy and Scotland. So Italy were like running the ball a lot, but not necessarily making ground when they elected to run. In terms of players, though, it is an Italian at the top of the list. Capozzo with 140 meters. Then Marcus Smith and James Lowe just behind them. We have Rio Dyer, Liam Williams, and then Duhan van der Merwe. At least half of those meters that he got was that wonder try as well. And actually the same for Lowe as well. Like his run in for his intercept was something like 86 meters, right? So that's about 80% of his run meters as well. In terms of actual just runs, then England, head the way there. And then we have Scotland and France at the bottom there with 108 and 107, so pretty close between those two. In terms of carries, then got Finn Russell and Lewis Ludlam at the top there with Ellis Genge as well. So, Russell getting himself heavily involved with taking the ball to the line, and then you can see England kind of trucked it up a bit with the forwards there as well. We then have Tommaso Allen and Sebastian Negri. So you can see that, Italy were running the ball a lot themselves. In terms of passing then, England lead the way on this one, 207. Scotland, almost half, or like just over half as many on 126 there at the bottom. In terms of players, not much surprise that like the top six players are the starting six scrum halves for each of the teams. The only thing I would mention is that like Dupont is a little bit higher up compared to where like France are second last on the team list, but he's third on this, and it speaks to the fact that they like to play off him. More than other teams would, like, putting through 10 or whatever. In terms of then tackles, so Scotland made the most tackles in their game against England, and at the bottom then we have Italy and England. England just breaking the 100 mark with tackles made. In terms of tackle percentage then, it's Scotland again leading the way. France and Ireland both in the 90s as well. Italy down in the 70s. That's definitely something that they're going to have to improve on. Again, it was a tight game, and just improving that up into even the 80s might be enough to get them a win. In terms of players then, Matt Ferguson leading the way, 26 tackles. That's some shift he put in. Faletau with 21 as well. People said he had a quiet game, but obviously he was still working away there, putting his tackles in. Jelonch and Crosby there on 20 each. Maybe Doris, Morgan, Flamont, and Gray. So a lot of players like putting in, big shifts with tackles there as well. In terms of dominant tackles, Ben Curry leads the way with 4, and then we have some repeats from the overall tackle list as well, with Crosby and Morgan there. Also Ken Owens, Tipperick, Francis and Adams. So a lot of Welsh putting in plenty of dominant tackles against Ireland, but not really, we saw turnovers conceded, not really producing those turnovers for them that maybe they were looking for out of that. Then in terms of missed tackles, we have Nicotera there on 7, Russell on 6, Lamro 5, and then we have just a whole bunch of people on 4. Like, it's just too many to put up in a graphic. Finally, then penalties. France conceded the most penalties, 18, and Italy conceded the fewest, 7. So generally, you would expect with that France would potentially lose that game just because of the disparity in penalties conceded. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can tighten that up for Dublin. And then next, then we have Wales and Ireland. Just seemed like a lot of penalties in that game, and obviously fewer in the England-Scotland game there, with 10 and 9 for them. In terms of players, then those on the naughty step, well, the person sitting highest on the naughty step is Andrew Porter. 6 penalties conceded in that game. The guy plays on the edge, but obviously was just over the edge a bit too much against Wales. Then we have Olawon on 4, Falatau, Willemse, and Taufifinua on 3. And there are a whole bunch of players on 2. There's just way too many to put in. Like, you're talking, you're talking another 10 or 15 or something on 2 there. So those are the stats for the first round. For the next round, we will do something similar. We might look at, some breaking down some other stats as well, kind of like maybe things like meters per carry and stuff like that as well, just to kind of, mix things up a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And, as long as you did enjoy it, then I'm going to keep it as kind of a feature all the way through until the end of the Six Nations.